What happened when a stranger followed you home one night? I never thought a simple walk home would unravel my entire life. It was late later than I should have stayed out. The bar had closed, my friends had scattered into Ubers and cabs. But I'd insisted I was fine to walk. It was only 15 minutes. 15 minutes through dimly lit streets, past shuttered stores and quiet houses. I told myself the fresh air would clear my head. The first time I noticed him, he was just another shadow on the corner. A tall figure in a dark jacket, hood pulled low. He didn't move when I passed. Didn't look at me. Just lingered. I kept walking, stuffing my hands deeper into my pockets, the night air biting against my skin. My shoes echoed too loudly against the pavement. Every sound made me twitch. The buzz of a street lamp, the rustle of a tree. When I glanced back, I saw him again, about half a block behind me. Coincidence, I whispered under my breath, trying to steady my breathing. He's just walking the same way, but my gut told me something else. The rhythm of his steps matched mine too closely. When I slowed, he slowed. When I sped up, so did he. My heart began to thud hard in my chest. I pulled my phone out and pretended to scroll, hoping the glow of the screen might deter him. But I couldn't bring myself to call anyone. I didn't want to sound paranoid. Didn't want to be that person who freaks out over nothing. Another turn. My street was only 2 blocks away. If I could just make it to my house, I'd be fine. Safe. But then footsteps quickened. Closing in. I spun around, my voice catching in my throat. Hey, are you following me? The man stopped dead in the middle of the sidewalk. His hood hid most of his face, but I could see a faint smile pulling at his lips. You dropped something. His voice was low, steady. My skin crawled. I didn't drop anything. He lifted his hand and dangled something between his fingers. My keychain. The one with the chipped plastic charm I'd had since high school. My stomach lurched. I hadn't dropped it. I kept it hooked to the inside of my bag, which meant he'd been close enough to take it. I think you'll need this to get home, he said softly, almost kindly. Every instinct screamed at me to run. So I did. My sneakers slapped the pavement as I sprinted down the block, not daring to look back. My lungs burned, but adrenaline carried me to my front steps. I fumbled with my spare key, the one hidden under the loose brick by the stairs. My hands shook so badly I nearly dropped it twice. The moment the door clicked open, I shoved myself inside and slammed it shut, bolting it tight. For a few seconds I just leaned against the wood, chest heaving, ears ringing with the sound of my heartbeat. Safe. Home. Then came the knock, soft at first, almost polite, then louder, insistent. I froze. I gave your key back. The man's voice murmured through the door. You should say thank you. I backed away slowly, my breath catching in my throat. My phone slipped from my hand and clattered onto the hardwood floor. The sound echoed like a gunshot in the silence of the house. I didn't pick it up. Couldn't. I just stood there, staring at the door as the knocking grew harder, angrier. Come on, he said, his voice rising. You're being rude. My hands finally obeyed me. I scrambled for my phone, dialing the only number that came to mind. Not the police, not a friend. My brother, he answered on the 3rd ring. His voice groggy. What's wrong? There's someone outside, I whispered. He followed me home. He has my keys. He knows where I live. Silence on the line. Then firmly, don't open the door. I'm coming. The knocking stopped. I pressed the phone tighter to my ear, my body trembling. For a moment there was only quiet outside. No footsteps. No voice. Nothing. Then metallic scraping. The sound of a key sliding into my lock. My blood turned to ice. The door handle began to twist. The handle rattled once, twice, then stopped. I didn't breathe. I didn't blink. I just pressed my back against the far wall, clutching my phone so hard my fingers went numb. "Your locks are weak," the man said softly through the door, like he was offering a casual observation. "Anyone could get in. You should be more careful." I thought I'd faint. My brother was 20 minutes away if he hit every green light. I couldn't last 20 minutes with this man at my door. I whispered into the phone. "He's trying to get in." "Stay on the line," my brother ordered. "I'm calling the cops." "Just hide. Don't let him see you." But where could I hide? The house suddenly felt too small, every corner exposed. My bedroom upstairs? No, if he got in, I'd be trapped. The kitchen? Too many windows. The closet? The one under the stairs. It was cramped and dark, but hidden. I crouched low, phone still clutched to my ear, and slid inside. I eased the door shut until only a sliver of light remained. My breath came in shallow gasps, each one threatening to give me away. For a moment silence. Then I heard it, the unmistakable creak of my front door opening. He had a key. My stomach dropped. The brick. He must have seen me get it earlier. I covered my mouth with both hands, muffling the sob that threatened to break free. "Nice place," his voice drawled. "Closer now." The floorboards groaned under his steps. Cozy. Feels. Lived in. He walked slowly, deliberately, as if savoring the intrusion. The sound of drawers opening, cabinet doors shutting. He wasn't searching. He was exploring, claiming. My brother's voice whispered urgently in my ear. "Cops are on their way. Just hold out a little longer." Hold out. I tried. I really did. But then his footsteps came closer toward the stairs, toward the closet. I squeezed my eyes shut, praying he'd pass. The footsteps stopped right outside. My heart thudded so loudly I was sure he could hear it. And then he laughed. A low, quiet chuckle that made my skin crawl. "You're in here, aren't you?" The closet door handle turned slowly, deliberately. I nearly screamed. Suddenly the sharp blast of a siren outside. Red and blue lights flickered through the cracks of the door. The man's laughter cut off. His footsteps retreated quickly, moving back through the living room, then out the front door. I burst from the closet, phone slipping from my hand as I staggered toward the window. 2 patrol cars screeched to a stop outside, their lights flashing. Officers spilled out, shouting commands. But the man was gone. They searched the street, the yards, even the alley behind my house. Nothing. He had vanished into the night like smoke. An officer took my statement while I clutched a blanket around myself, shaking so hard my teeth chattered. My brother arrived moments later, his face pale and furious. He pulled me into his arms, whispering, "You're okay. You're safe now." Safe. The word felt meaningless, because when I went back inside, the evidence of his presence was everywhere. The front door ajar. My kitchen drawers half open. A half-drunk glass of water on the counter. He'd made himself at home. The cops promised extra patrols in the neighborhood. Told me to stay with family if possible. It was probably a one-off, one of them said. Some creep who saw an opportunity. But I knew better. It wasn't random. He had my keys. He knew where I lived. He'd studied me enough to know about the brick under the stairs. This wasn't over. That night, I stayed at my brother's apartment. Neither of us slept. Every creak in the building made us jump. Every shadow out the window looked like him. At dawn, I told myself maybe the nightmare was done. Maybe he was gone for good. But when I finally returned home later that day, I saw it. A note taped to my front door. In neat, careful handwriting. "You forgot to say thank you." My knees buckled. The world tilted. My brother ripped the note down before I could even touch it, cursing under his breath. We called the cops again. Showed them the note. They bagged it for evidence, promised fingerprints, promised follow-ups. But as they left, I saw the look on one officer's face. Doubt. Like maybe I'd imagined it all. Like maybe I'd written the note myself. And in that moment, something inside me broke. Because I realized I wasn't just fighting him. I was fighting the disbelief of everyone else. That night, as I sat awake with every light in the house blazing, I heard it again. That same slow knock on the door. The knock was softer this time. Almost gentle. Like he wanted me to believe he belonged here. I gripped the baseball bat my brother had insisted I keep nearby. My hands were slick with sweat, my arms trembling, but I forced myself to move toward the door. I didn't open it. I just listened. "Why are you ignoring me?" His voice carried through the wood, low and calm, almost tender. "After everything I've done for you." I pressed my forehead against the door frame, whispering into the phone clutched in my hand. "He's back. He's right outside." My brother cursed on the other end. "I'm calling the cops. Stay away from the door." But I couldn't move. My body felt glued in place, like if I left the door unattended, he'd break it down. The knock came again. 3 times. Rhythmic. Measured. "You should let me in. It's cold out here." I bit down on a sob, forcing myself to stay silent. And then he laughed again. That same low, cruel chuckle that made my stomach twist. "You're scared. I can hear it." I stumbled back, gripping the bat so tightly my knuckles burned. I wanted to scream at him, to tell him to leave me alone. But my throat closed up, strangling the words before they could escape. Sirens again, faint at first, then growing louder. The red and blue lights flickered across my window, painting the walls in frantic colors. When I finally found the courage to peek outside, the porch was empty. Gone. Again. The officers searched the street, knocked on neighbors' doors, set up a car outside for surveillance. But just like before, they found nothing. They started asking questions I didn't like. "Are you sure it's the same man? Could it be someone you know? Do you think he might just be trying to scare you?" The words slithered into my mind like poison. Doubt. Accusation. My brother cut them off. "She's not making this up. He's stalking her. Do your damn job." The officers exchanged a look, then promised to file another report. Promises. That's all they ever gave. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in my living room with every light on, the bat across my lap, waiting. My brother crashed on the couch, snoring lightly, trying to prove he wasn't afraid. But I could see it in his face. The lines of worry etched deep. At 3:12 a.m., the phone rang. Not my cell. The landline. I hadn't used it in years. I almost forgot it existed. I froze, staring at it as it rang and rang, the shrill sound drilling into my skull. My brother stirred awake, muttering, "Don't answer it." But I couldn't stop myself. My hand moved before my brain caught up. I lifted the receiver, pressed it to my ear. "Hello?" At first, silence. Then breathing, slow, deliberate. I whispered, "Who is this?" The voice on the other end was unmistakable. Calm. Smooth. "You really should have said thank you." I slammed the phone down so hard it rattled on the table. My brother sat up instantly, eyes wide. "What did he say?" I couldn't answer. My whole body shook too violently. The cops traced the call later. Said it came from a payphone 3 blocks away. By the time they got there, of course, he was gone. Days passed, each one heavier than the last. I stopped going to work, stopped seeing friends. My world shrank to the 4 walls of my house. Even my brother couldn't convince me to step outside. The locks were changed, security cameras installed, motion lights, deadbolts, even a chain across the door. But no matter what I did, I never felt safe, because he always found a way back. Sometimes it was small things. A cigarette butt on the porch when I didn't smoke. A window left open that I knew I'd closed. A faint whistle outside at night, carrying through the walls like a ghost. Other times it was worse, like the day I found my bedroom mirror covered in red lipstick words. Look behind you. Or the morning my brother discovered the family photo on the mantel had been replaced. Same frame. Different picture. A photo of me, walking home at night, my face caught in the glow of a street lamp. The police stopped taking me seriously. Each call, each report, chipped away at their patience. One officer even suggested maybe I was doing it myself. Trauma. A cry for attention. I wanted to scream, to shake them until they understood. But instead, I just stopped calling. If no one believed me, what was the point? One night, about 2 weeks after it all began, I sat in the dark with the cameras pulled up on my phone. Watching. Waiting. And then I saw it. On the grainy black and white feed of my backyard, the camera caught movement. A man, tall, hood pulled low, standing perfectly still, staring straight into the lens. And then he lifted his hand and waved. The wave was slow, mocking, like he knew I was watching and wanted me to feel it in my bones. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. My thumb hovered over my brother's contact, but I couldn't press it. Because what would I say? He's waving at me. They'd roll their eyes again. Then the figure stepped closer, into the pool of light cast by the motion sensor. For the first time, I saw his face clearly. It wasn't just a stranger anymore. It was familiar. Not someone I knew well, but someone I'd seen before. The cashier at the corner store. The one who always rang up my groceries with too much eye contact. Who lingered a second too long when handing me change. The one I brushed off as harmless, awkward. My stomach churned. I'd underestimated him. I whispered to myself, "It's him. Oh God, it's him." He bent down, disappearing from the camera's view. My pulse spiked. Then, a few seconds later, a soft scrape at the back door. He was trying the lock. I stumbled backward, clutching the bat, heart hammering so loudly I couldn't hear anything else. The scrape stopped. Then came a whisper through the thin glass of the kitchen window. "You look even prettier when you're scared." I bit down on a scream. The next sound was my brother's car pulling up in the driveway. Tires screeching. Doors slamming. His footsteps thundered up the porch steps. "Hey!" he bellowed. "Get the hell away from here." The man bolted. I caught the blur of his hood as he vaulted the fence, vanishing into the night like smoke. My brother stormed inside, face red, breath ragged. "Did he hurt you? Did he get in?" I shook my head, unable to form words. I just pointed to the camera feed, rewinding it to the moment he waved. My brother's jaw clenched. "That's the guy from the store. I've seen him." We called the cops again. This time, they actually listened. Maybe because my brother was furious enough to demand action. Maybe because the footage made it undeniable. A patrol car parked outside my house for the next few nights. They took my statement, promised to keep watch, even said they'd question the man from the store. But he never showed up for work again. The store manager claimed he'd quit without notice. No one knew where he'd gone, which meant he was still out there. Watching, waiting. I started to unravel. Sleep was impossible. Every creak of the house jolted me awake. Every shadow stretched too long, moved when it shouldn't. My reflection in the window startled me so badly one night, I nearly swung the bat at the glass. My brother tried to help. He took time off work, stayed with me constantly. But I could see the toll it was taking on him. The dark circles under his eyes. The way his hands shook when he made coffee. He was burning out trying to keep me safe. One evening, after another long day of dead ends with the cops, he said quietly, "Maybe we should move. Start fresh somewhere else." I wanted to believe that would fix it. But I knew better. He'd follow me. He'd proven that already, because 2 nights later it happened again. I woke to a noise in the kitchen. Not loud, just subtle. A chair scraping across the tile. I grabbed the bat and crept downstairs, my body trembling so badly it was hard to hold on to anything. The kitchen light was on, and sitting at the table calmly, casually was him. The man. My breath caught in my throat. He smiled like we were old friends. "You really should lock your windows." I raised the bat, but he didn't flinch. He just leaned back in the chair, arms spread wide like he owned the place. "You don't need that," he said softly. "I'm not here to hurt you." "Get out," I managed, my voice breaking. "Get out of my house." His smile widened. "Why would I leave? This feels like home. Our home." My knees buckled. He wasn't making sense. He was delusional. I screamed for my brother, my voice cracking. The man's expression shifted instantly, darkening. "Don't do that," he hissed. "Don't bring him into this. This is between us." Footsteps pounded down the hall. My brother burst into the kitchen, face pale, fists clenched. But by the time he got there, the man was already gone. The back door swung lazily on its hinges. He'd vanished into the night again like he always did. Only this time, he'd left something behind. On the table, next to the chair he'd been sitting in, was a single Polaroid photograph of me, sleeping. The Polaroid slipped from my shaking fingers and fluttered to the floor. My brother picked it up before I could, his face tightening as he stared at it. "Jesus Christ," he whispered. This is from tonight. Look at what you're wearing." I looked down at myself. Same hoodie, same leggings. My blood turned cold. He'd been in my room while I slept. I stumbled back against the counter, nausea rising in my throat. How is that even possible? I locked everything. My brother crouched in front of me, gripping my shoulders. "Listen to me. None of this is your fault." He's crossing lines now. He's not just scaring you, he's inside the house. He's escalating. I nodded numbly, though my mind felt like it was cracking apart. If he could sneak in while I was sleeping, then nothing I did mattered. Locks, cameras, alarms, none of it would stop him. The cops came again, took the Polaroid, jotted down notes with forced neutrality. One officer muttered something about domestic issues under his breath. My brother nearly lunged at him, shouting, "Does this look domestic to you? She doesn't even know the guy." They left with promises. Always promises. That night, we didn't sleep at all. We sat in the living room with the bat, a kitchen knife, and a heavy flashlight between us, jumping at every sound. Around 4 a.m., my brother finally dozed off. I stayed awake, staring at the darkened window, heart racing at the thought of his face appearing in the glass. But it didn't. Not that night. The next morning, I found something worse. On the porch, under the welcome mat, was another Polaroid. This one of me and my brother asleep on the couch, taken just hours earlier. My hands shook as I showed it to him. He swore under his breath, pacing the kitchen. "This is it. Enough. We're not waiting for the cops to get their act together. We're taking matters into our own hands." "What do you mean?" My voice cracked. He said, grabbing his car keys. "We're going to find him before he finds you again." He had a plan. The corner store manager had given the cops the man's name when they questioned him. Eric Walsh. My brother had done some digging on his own. Eric had an old address 2 towns over. A rundown apartment complex with more broken windows than tenants. We drove there that afternoon, every mile thick with tension. My brother gripped the wheel like it might snap in half. I sat in the passenger seat, clutching the Polaroid so tightly it wrinkled. When we arrived, the place looked abandoned. Paint peeling from the walls, graffiti covering the doors, weeds growing through cracks in the pavement. "Stay here," my brother said, unbuckling his seatbelt. "No," I whispered, my throat dry. "If he's inside, I need to see. I need to know." He hesitated, then nodded grimly. "Fine, but stay behind me." We climbed the cracked stairs, the air thick with mildew and dust. The hallway smelled of rot and stale beer. Apartment 3C. That was the number. My brother raised his fist and knocked hard. No answer. He knocked again, louder this time. "Eric, open the door." Still nothing. Then, from inside a faint shuffle, I pressed closer to the door, holding my breath. "Eric," my brother called, voice sharp. "We know you're in there." Silence. Then, laughter. That same low, mocking chuckle I'd heard outside my house. My skin crawled. My brother tried the knob. Locked. He cursed, slamming his shoulder against the wood. It rattled but didn't break. From inside, Eric's voice floated through, smooth and calm. "You shouldn't be here." "Stay away from my sister," my brother shouted, pounding the door so hard the frame shook. "You hear me? Stay the hell away from her." Eric laughed again, softer this time. "But she invited me." "Didn't you, sweetheart?" I froze. "Don't listen to him," my brother snapped. My chest tightened, but I couldn't move, because Eric's words had hit something deep inside me. The night at the bar. The walk home. The way he'd had my keys. Had I smiled at him before? Had I been too polite when he bagged my groceries? Had I unknowingly opened the door, even just a crack, that gave him permission in his mind? I wanted to scream no, but doubt gnawed at me, sharp and relentless. Suddenly the door creaked. Slowly it swung open. The apartment was dark, the smell of cigarettes wafting out. Eric wasn't there, just an empty chair in the middle of the room. And on it, a Polaroid camera, still warm. The chair sat dead center in the room, a single spotlight of daylight cutting through a gap in the curtains, illuminating the Polaroid camera like it was waiting for me. I froze in the doorway, every instinct screaming that it was a trap. My brother stepped in front of me, scanning the shadows. "Stay here," he muttered, though we both knew I wouldn't. The apartment smelled of stale cigarettes and something sour, like rotting food. The carpet was stained, the walls yellowed with nicotine. But it wasn't the filth that made my stomach lurch. It was the walls. They were covered, floor to ceiling, Polaroids, hundreds of them, maybe thousands, overlapping like scales on some grotesque creature. All of me leaving work, me jogging, me sitting in a cafe with my headphones in, me unlocking my front door, me asleep in my bed. I stumbled back against the wall, bile rising in my throat. My own face stared back at me from every angle, every expression, frozen forever in his twisted gallery. "Oh my God," I whispered. "He's been watching me for months." My brother ripped some of the photos down, crumpling them in his fists. "We need to get out of here. We need to." The door slammed shut behind us. I spun around, my heart plummeting. Eric stood in the doorway, hood pushed back now, face pale and gaunt, eyes gleaming with something between hunger and devotion. "You weren't supposed to come here," he said softly, almost disappointed. "You ruined the surprise." My brother lunged at him, fists clenched, but Eric moved quicker than I thought possible. He ducked aside, shoving my brother into the wall with a strength that didn't match his thin frame. My brother staggered, but before he could recover, Eric pulled something from his pocket. A knife, small but sharp. "Don't," Eric warned, his voice low and calm. "Don't make me hurt him. This isn't about him. It's about us." The knife glinted under the dim light, and I felt the world tilt. "Us?" I choked out. Eric smiled faintly. "You don't see it yet, but you will. I know you better than anyone. I know how you laugh when no one's around. I know how you cry into your pillow. I know the songs you play on repeat when you think no one's listening. He stepped closer, knife still in hand. My brother tensed, ready to strike. But one wrong move and it would be over. Eric's eyes locked on mine. I've been protecting you. From the world. From men who'd only use you. From your brother, who doesn't understand you the way I do. You belong with me. That's why I followed you home that night. To save you. My knees nearly buckled. My voice shook as I forced words past my dry throat. You're sick. You broke into my house. You watched me sleep. His smile widened, almost tender. Because you needed me to. My brother snapped. He lunged forward, tackling Eric to the ground. The knife clattered across the filthy carpet. I screamed, diving for it, my fingers closing around the handle just as Eric kneed my brother in the stomach and rolled on top of him. Run, my brother shouted, straining under Eric's weight. Get out. But I didn't run. Something inside me snapped too. I raised the knife, my hand trembling so violently it barely obeyed me. Get off him, I screamed. Eric froze, his eyes flicking to the blade in my hand. And for the first time, his calm mask cracked. He looked afraid, but only for a second. Then he laughed. That same awful, low chuckle that had haunted me for weeks. You won't do it. You're not like me. My grip tightened. My vision blurred with tears. Try me. We stayed locked like that for what felt like hours, Eric pinning my brother. Me holding the knife inches from his face. Then suddenly sirens. The sound jolted us all. Eric's eyes widened. My brother shoved him off, scrambling to his feet as the wail grew louder. Flashing lights bled through the grimy window. The police. Eric bolted, slipping out the back door before I could even move. By the time the officers stormed the apartment, guns drawn, he was gone. Again, they found the photos. The shrine. The Polaroid camera still warm in my hand. They bagged everything, promising it was enough evidence to charge him if they could catch him. But that was the problem. He was still out there. As they led us outside, one officer tried to reassure me. He won't get far. We'll find him. But deep down, I knew the truth. Eric didn't need to get far, because he always found his way back. And as they drove us away, I glanced out the window one last time. In the alley behind the apartment, half hidden in shadow, a figure stood perfectly still, watching, and when the patrol car turned the corner, I swore I saw him lift his hand and wave. The wave haunted me. I saw it even after we'd left the apartment complex. After the officers had sworn they'd search every street and back alley. That casual little gesture, as if all of this was just a game. And he was winning. At my brother's insistence, we didn't go back to my house. The cops recommended a safe house run by the department. A plain brick duplex with nothing personal inside. White walls. A mattress on the floor. Locks reinforced with steel plates. It didn't feel like safety. It felt like a cage. I lay awake that first night, staring at the ceiling. The Polaroids burned into my brain. Hundreds of versions of me, captured when I wasn't looking. I kept imagining his eyes behind the lens, his breath fogging in the cold air while he waited for the perfect shot. My brother snored on the couch in the next room, exhausted. I envied him. Sleep wasn't something I trusted anymore. Sleep meant vulnerability. Sleep meant Eric could sneak in, just like before. By the third night, my paranoia had morphed into certainty. I knew he'd find me again. I felt it in my bones. And I was right. It started with the sound of gravel crunching outside the window. Soft, measured. I held my breath, straining to hear. Then a whisper, so faint I thought I imagined it. Sweetheart. I bolted upright, heart pounding. He was here. I scrambled for my phone, shaking my brother awake with my free hand. He's outside. I heard him. My brother rubbed his eyes. Groggy. But when he saw my face, he didn't question it. He grabbed the bat and crept toward the window. We pulled back the curtain together. Empty yard. Nothing but darkness and the faint glow of the street lamp. But as we started to relax, the motion light flicked on. And there he was, standing in the middle of the yard, hood down, face fully visible this time. Eric. He stared straight at me through the glass, lips curved in that same unnerving smile. My brother yanked the curtain shut. Call the cops, now. My fingers fumbled on the screen, dialing with frantic urgency. But before dispatch even picked up, a thud echoed through the duplex. The back door. He was trying to force it. Get in the bathroom, my brother barked. Lock it, but I couldn't leave him. Not again. No, I'm not. Do it. I stumbled toward the bathroom, clutching my phone, while my brother positioned himself near the kitchen. Bat raised. My body shook so violently it was hard to breathe. Another crash. The sound of wood splintering. He was inside. I pressed myself against the bathroom door, listening. Eric's voice carried down the hallway. Calm, gentle. You don't need to be afraid of me. I'll protect you. I'll keep you safe. Come any closer and I swear to God. My brother's voice roared back, but it cracked with fear. Then came the sound of struggle. A grunt. A crash. Something heavy falling. I couldn't stay hidden. I burst out of the bathroom just in time to see Eric shoving my brother against the wall. The bat knocked from his hands. No! I screamed, running forward without thinking. Eric's head snapped toward me. His face lit up like he'd just seen the love of his life. There you are. I grabbed the bat off the floor and swung with everything I had. The crack echoed through the duplex as it connected with his shoulder. Eric stumbled, cursing under his breath. But he didn't let go of my brother. He just grinned wider. Teeth bared. That's it, he whispered. That's the fire I love. My brother elbowed him hard in the ribs, breaking free long enough to shove me toward the door. Run. We bolted outside, barefoot into the cold night. My lungs burned as we sprinted across the gravel lot, not stopping until we reached the police cruiser parked at the corner. The officer inside startled as we banged on the windows, screaming. He called for backup immediately. Within minutes, the safe house was swarming with cops. But Eric was gone. Again, no forced entry this time. He'd had a key, just like before. I sat on the curb, wrapped in a blanket, shaking uncontrollably. My brother paced nearby, cursing under his breath. A detective knelt in front of me, her voice gentle. We're going to catch him. But you need to be prepared. He's obsessed. He won't stop until... She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to, because I already knew. Eric wouldn't stop until one of us was dead. After that night, something in me shifted. The fear didn't go away, but it hardened. It turned sharp, like glass lodged under my skin. I couldn't keep waiting for him to appear and vanish, for the cops to arrive too late, for my brother to fight battles that weren't his alone. I was done being prey. 2 days later, I asked my brother to teach me how to use the gun he kept locked away. He hesitated, looking at me like I'd lost my mind. You don't need this, he said. That's not who you are. But I looked him straight in the eye and whispered, I don't know who I am anymore. He took that from me. The words silenced him. He unlocked the box, placed the gun in my hands. It was heavier than I expected, the cold metal pressing into my palms. My hands shook at first, but the longer I held it, the steadier they became. That night, we practiced in the basement, how to hold it, how to check the chamber, how to switch the safety. The sound of the click was terrifying and comforting all at once. Promise me something, my brother said quietly as he watched me. What? That you won't let him turn you into him. I nodded. But deep down, I wasn't sure I could keep that promise, because a darker thought had already taken root inside me. What if the only way to end this was to end him? The cops finally admitted what we already knew. Eric was always one step ahead. He knew the patrol routes, the blind spots, the gaps in their response times. Inside information, my brother muttered one night. He has to know someone on the force. I hated how much sense that made. The way he'd slipped past them over and over. The way he always seemed to disappear seconds before they arrived. But if he had friends on the inside, that meant one thing. We couldn't rely on anyone else. So we set our own trap. We went back to my house, the one place I'd sworn I'd never sleep again. My brother installed extra locks, reinforced the doors, set up hidden cameras in every room. And then we waited. I sat in the living room with the gun hidden under a blanket on my lap. Every nerve in my body screaming. My brother pretended to watch TV, though the volume was low enough to hear a pin drop. Hours crawled by. Midnight came and went. And then right on cue the motion light in the backyard flicked on. Eric. He moved with eerie calm, like he knew exactly where the cameras were, and didn't care. His face was bare. His eyes locked on the house. He wanted me to see him. I gripped the gun so tightly, my knuckles whitened. My brother whispered, "Wait. Don't move." Eric walked right up to the back door and placed his palm flat against the glass. His smile widened. Then he reached into his pocket. For a split second, I thought it would be another key. Or a knife. But it wasn't. It was a Polaroid. He pressed it against the glass. A photo of me. Taken from inside the house. From the exact spot where I was sitting. My blood ran cold. He'd already been inside tonight. I snapped. I ripped the blanket off, raised the gun, and pointed it at the glass. My brother hissed, "Don't," but I pulled the trigger. The deafening crack shook the house. The glass shattered, exploding outward into the yard. Eric stumbled back, shock flickering across his face. Then he laughed, even with shards of glass at his feet, even with the barrel still aimed at him. He laughed. "You're learning," he called softly, before vanishing into the dark. The cops came within minutes, drawn by the gunshot. They searched, found nothing, just blood drops in the grass where the glass had cut him. My brother kept yelling at them to track the blood, to call in dogs, to do something. But they just muttered about protocol, paperwork, liability. I sat on the couch, the gun heavy in my lap, ears still ringing from the shot. And for the first time since it all began, I felt a strange calm, because now he knew. I wasn't just running anymore. The next time he came back, I'd be ready. But what I didn't realize was that he was ready too. Because the next morning, taped to my front door, was another Polaroid. This one wasn't of me. It was of my brother, sleeping. The sight of that Polaroid almost stopped my heart. My brother, curled on the couch, blanket pulled to his chest, mouth slightly open as he slept. The time stump in the corner made my stomach twist. It was from last night. The same night I'd fired the gun. Eric hadn't just been outside. He'd been inside. Again. I stumbled back, bile rising in my throat. He was here. While we were both here, my brother snatched the photo from my hand, his jaw tightening, eyes scanning the image for some hidden clue. But his expression told me what I already knew. There was no trick, no Photoshop. It was real. He dropped the photo onto the table, his fists clenching. "That's it. I'm done playing defense. If the cops won't stop him, I will." "Don't say that," I whispered, though a part of me wanted it too. He shook his head, pacing like a caged animal. "No, you don't get it. He's escalating. First it was watching, then notes, then breaking in. Now he's standing over me while I sleep. He's daring us to catch him, daring us to fight back." I wanted to argue, to tell him we couldn't sink to Eric's level. But then I pictured the Polaroid again. Eric's shadow just out of frame. The thought of waking up to find my brother gone, taken in the night. My voice cracked. So what do we do? My brother looked at me, eyes hard. We set the trap again. But this time, we don't call the cops. This time, we finish it. That evening, we made our plan. We'd leave the lights on like usual, act like nothing had changed. My brother would pretend to sleep on the couch again. A decoy. I'd wait upstairs with the gun, watching the cameras on my phone. If Eric came back, and I knew he would, I'd have the high ground. He wouldn't see me until it was too late. It sounded simple, but nothing about it felt simple when the house fell into silence. Every tick of the clock was another heartbeat in my ears. My hands trembled so badly I had to grip the gun with both just to steady it. Hours passed, midnight, 1, 2, and then movement. On the camera feed, the back door slid open with practiced ease. Eric, he stepped inside like he owned the place, moving with quiet precision. His hood was up again, his face shadowed, but I didn't need to see it. I could feel him. He lingered in the kitchen for a moment, scanning the room, then moved toward the living room where my brother slept. I held my breath as he crouched beside the couch. His hand reached out, hovering inches from my brother's face, like he wanted to brush the hair off his forehead. My stomach lurched. Then he pulled out the Polaroid camera. The familiar whir echoed faintly through the house. A flash. He was taking pictures again. This was my chance. I raised the gun, aiming through the crack of the doorway. My finger tightened on the trigger, but then he spoke. Soft. Loving. He doesn't deserve you. He doesn't protect you the way I can. He'll always see you as fragile. But I see your strength. I see who you really are. Tears blurred my vision. My whole body shook, because part of me wanted to believe him. Not the twisted obsession, not the danger, but the words. That someone saw me. That someone thought I was strong. My finger hovered over the trigger, frozen. Eric tilted his head. Like he knew. Like he could feel my hesitation even without seeing me. You won't shoot me, he whispered. Because deep down, you know we're the same. The gun slipped slightly in my sweaty palms. I couldn't move. Couldn't think. Then my brother's eyes snapped open. He grabbed the bat from under the blanket and swung with everything he had. The crack echoed through the house as it connected with Eric's side. Eric collapsed, cursing, the camera clattering to the floor. Now, my brother shouted. I fired. The sound split the air, deafening. Eric cried out, stumbling backward, clutching his shoulder. Blood bloomed through his jacket, dark and heavy. But even wounded, even bleeding, he smiled. You're learning, he rasped. Just like I knew you would. He staggered to his feet, bolting for the door. I aimed again, but my brother grabbed my arm. No, let him go. We need him alive for the cops. By the time the sirens arrived, Eric was gone. Again. But this time he'd left more than Polaroids behind. A trail of blood led out the door, across the porch, into the yard. And for the first time, it felt like he was the one running from us. But even as they patched the broken glass, even as the cops promised they'd catch him now that he was injured, I couldn't shake the feeling in my chest. That smile, that certainty in his eyes. Like he hadn't lost. Like the real game hadn't even started yet. The blood trail ended in the woods 2 blocks from my house. Dogs lost the scent near the creek. The cops said he couldn't have gotten far with a wound like that. But I knew better. Eric was slippery. Smart. Driven by something darker than pain. Days passed. The house was patched. Cameras replaced, but peace didn't come. My brother and I slept in shifts, the gun always within reach. I jumped at every sound, every flicker of motion outside the window. And then the silence came. 3 days, 4, a week. No Polaroids, no knocks, No whispers through the glass. Everyone told me it was over. That he'd either bled out or skipped town. The cops even suggested moving on, starting therapy, reclaiming normal life. But I couldn't, because I knew he was still out there, and he wasn't done. It happened on a Sunday. Bright, sunny, ordinary. My brother had finally convinced me to leave the house for groceries. The store felt alien. People laughing in aisles. Children tugging candy off shelves. I felt like I'd slipped into a world that no longer belonged to me. We were almost done when I saw it. The Polaroid, tucked between the cereal boxes. My face, taken that very moment, staring in shock at the camera I never saw. My brother cursed, grabbing it, scanning the aisle. "He's here!" Panic surged. My hands shook so violently I dropped the basket, cans rolling across the tile. People stared, confused, but I didn't care. I felt his eyes on me. We ran, left the cart, left the stairs, bolted to the car. My brother sped through red lights, checking the mirrors every 2 seconds. But the mirrors stayed empty. No car behind us. No Eric. When we finally got home, another Polaroid was waiting on the front step. Me, taken in the store parking lot. That night, I broke. I sat on the floor of my bedroom surrounded by photos the police had returned. Hundreds of versions of me staring back. I ripped them into shreds, my sobs echoing through the room. "He's inside my head," I whispered. "I'll never be free." My brother knelt beside me, pulling me into his arms. "You will. We'll end this, one way or another." And for the first time, I believed him, because I realized something chilling. Eric didn't want to kill me. Not yet. He wanted me to become like him, to mirror his obsession, to think about him every second of every day. And in a way, he'd succeeded. The end came 2 weeks later. The cops called early in the morning. "We've got him," the detective said. "Hospital in the next county. Gunshot wound infected. He collapsed in a bus station bathroom. He's not going anywhere." Relief should have flooded me, but instead I felt empty, because I knew this wasn't the kind of story where you walk away clean. We drove to the hospital anyway. Part of me needed to see him one last time, to prove he was real, that this nightmare hadn't been something I'd conjured in the shadows of my own mind. They had him restrained to the bed, pale and sweating, tubes in his arms. Even half dead, his eyes lit up when they found mine. "There you are," he whispered, lips cracking into a bloody smile. "I knew you'd come." My brother lunged forward, but I held him back. I needed to hear this. Eric's voice was a rasp now, weak but certain. "They'll keep me away from you. For a while. But you'll think of me. Every night, every shadow. You'll never be rid of me. Because you're like me now. You've tasted it. The fear. The power. The blood." His words slid under my skin like poison. And I realized, with a sick jolt of horror, he wasn't entirely wrong. I'd pulled the trigger. I'd felt that dark satisfaction when he bled. And part of me had wanted to finish it. That was his victory. Not the photos, not the break-ins, not even the Polaroids of me sleeping. It was this, planting himself inside me, so deep I'd never scrape him out. The guards pulled us away. The doctor said his body was failing, that infection might finish what my bullet started, but his eyes never left mine, even as they dimmed. And when we finally walked out of that room, I felt lighter. Not safe. Never safe. Just lighter. Weeks have passed since then. The cops say he's still alive, awaiting trial when he recovers enough to stand. My brother insists it's over, that Eric can't touch me anymore. But I know better. Every time I close my eyes, I see the Polaroids. Every time I hear footsteps in the hall at night, I jolt awake, convinced he's back. Maybe he'll die in prison. Maybe he'll rot in a cell for the rest of his life. But me? I'll carry him forever. Because once someone crawls inside your mind like that, you never get them out. I used to be me. Carefree. Ordinary. Now I'm just the girl who learned how much a single shadow can change everything. And that was the night a stranger followed me home. The night my life ended. And something darker began. In the end, survival changes everyone.